All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Some thoughts on Hosea verses 1 through chapter 2, verse 13. I'm doing this simply as an exercise, keep myself busy. You guys know the times just as well as I do. This is happening right now, April 14th, 2020. It's a Tuesday, so I am not coming from a vantage point of superiority in any way, shape, or form. And I am not coming as someone who has all the answers or has experienced all the successes. I'm coming at this in a spirit of humility and just sharing some thoughts I had as I've done this study. First, I will read the verses in question. So that's Hosea 1, that's chapter 1, verse 1, through chapter 2, verse 13. I am using the Net Bible, New English Translation. This is the word of the Lord, which was revealed to Hosea, son of Beeri, during the time when Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah ruled Judah, and during the time when Jeroboam, son of Joash, ruled Israel. When the Lord first spoke through Hosea, he said to him, "Go marry a prostitute who will bear illegitimate children conceived through prostitution, because the nation continually commits spiritual prostitution by turning away from the Lord." So Hosea married Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim. Then she conceived and gave birth to a son for him. Then the Lord said to Hosea, "Name him Jezreel, because in a little while I will punish the dynasty of Jehu on account of the bloodshed in the valley of Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. At that time I will destroy the military power of Israel in the valley of Jezreel." She conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to him, "Name her No Pity, Lo Ruhamah, because I will no longer have pity on the nation of Israel. For I will certainly not forgive their guilt, but I will have pity on the nation of Judah. I will deliver them by the Lord their God. I will not deliver them by the warrior's bow, by sword, by military victory, by chariots and horses, or by chariots." When she had weaned No Pity, Lo Ruhamah, she conceived again, and gave birth to another son. Then the Lord said, "Name him Not My People, Lo Ami, because you are not my people, and I am not your God." The restoration of Israel. However, in the future, the number of the people of Israel will be like the sand of the sea, which can be neither measured nor numbered. Although it was said to them, "You are not my people," it will be said to them, "You are children of the living God." Then the people of Judah and the people of Israel will be gathered together. They will appoint for themselves one leader and will flourish in the land. Certainly the day of Jezreel will be great. Then you will call your brother My People, Ami. You will call your sister Pity, Ruhamah. Plead earnestly with your mother, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband, so that she might put an end to her adulterous lifestyle and turn away from her sexually immoral behavior. Otherwise, I will strip her naked and expose her like she was when she was born. I will turn her land into a wilderness and make her country a parched land, so that I might kill her with thirst. I will have no pity on her children, because they are children conceived in adultery. For their mother has committed adultery. She who conceived them has acted shamefully. For she said, "I will seek out my lovers, They are the ones who give me my bread and water, my wool, my flax, my olive oil, and my wine. Therefore, I will soon fence her in with thorns. I will wall her in so that she cannot find her way. Then she will pursue her lovers, but she will not catch them. She will seek them, but she will not find them. Then she will say, I will go back to my husband because I was better off then than I am now. Yet until now she has refused to acknowledge that I was the one who gave her the grain, the new wine, and the olive oil, and that it was I who lavished on her the silver and gold which they used in worshipping Baal. Therefore I will take back my grain during the harvest time, and my new wine when it ripens. I will take away my wool and my flax which I had provided in order to clothe her. Soon I will expose her lewd nakedness in front of her lovers, and no one will be able to rescue her from me. I will put an end to all her celebration, her annual religious festivals, monthly new moon celebrations, and weekly Sabbath festivities, all her appointed festivals. I will destroy her vines and fig trees, about which she said, These are my wages for prostitution that my lovers gave to me. I will turn her cultivated vines and fig trees into an uncultivated thicket, so that wild animals will devour them. I will punish her for the festival days when she burned incense to the Baal idols. She adorned herself with earrings and jewelry and went after her lovers, but she forgot me, says the Lord. Okay, pretty horrific if you ask me. This particular book, Hosea, has sometimes been called the gospel of love of the Old Testament. And if you can get past some of the disturbing language that's being used, eventually you'll be able to see that. I just want to reflect on this personally in the sense that when I am reading this, it's easy to criticize the characters of the story. There's Hosea, there's Gomer, there's three children, Jezreel, Loruhamah, and Loami. And then also there is God. He's an actor in this as well. And outside of this small family, there's a play playing out which is duplicated in the relationship between the Lord and his people, Israel. So there's all those things going on, and certainly, when this was written, it was written in a time and a place, and people had an understanding. And I don't want to get into all that right now. If you like that kind of stuff, as I do myself, then certainly there are plenty of avenues for you to explore that. I just want to kind of reflect on this for myself. I want to think about what spiritual condition I was in when the Lord joined me to Himself. Um, am I always faithful? And to what degree am I faithful? And does degree of faithfulness affect the degree to which the Lord loves me? Well, first of all, the spiritual condition I was in, the common way to describe that is to say lost, but certainly that does the trick, but perhaps not specifically enough. When I came to the Lord, and this is not everybody's story, this is just my story, and there is no shame in having a different story, having a less detailed story, or a calmer, more, um, you know, for lack of a better word, plain story. Nothing wrong with that at all. When I came to the Lord, I was homeless. I had just crossed the United States hitchhiking in winter time, arriving in Los Angeles from New York in 1980, January, so right after New Year. And there's no time right now. Maybe at a later time there'll be time to get into all the details, but suffice it to say that I arrived here in sad condition, and that I was already in sad condition before I even left. Things had not worked out. I was alone. I was feeling hopeless. I heard a doctor make a pronouncement. I don't know how he could have made such a pronouncement based on just talking to me for a few seconds or minutes, and basically said that I was sociopathic. I don't trust that diagnosis, but maybe he was a person of extraordinary discernment and he got that revelation somehow. At any rate, I arrived in Los Angeles and I had nothing. For all intents and purposes, I was nothing in my own estimation, anyway. And I heard a message of hope. Now, a lot of people hear this message and some accept it, some turn away. In the final analysis, it's always a matter of decision. It's not a matter of arguing somebody into a position of acceptance. It is just a decision. You decide to or not to accept. And so at that point in time, even though I was not impressed by the speaker, as a matter of fact, for whatever reason, I felt a certain revulsion for the speaker. But at any rate, I heard the message and I made a decision to accept. And then that was in 1980, and of course, you know, it is now 2020. So that's what, 40 years? So it's been 40 years, and in that time, there's been many ups and downs. I found myself to be an addict, a porn addict, and in addition to other things, I would drink. I was a binge drinker, so not a typical alcoholic in that when I drank, I only drank too much. And that was straight out, no working up to it. So then also, you know, there were other behaviors that probably were being covered up for the moment by my addictive issues, and that is impatience and, you know, self-interest and, you know, selfishness, many, many, many character defects that I had. I was able to comprehend a lot of spiritual information and gather some knowledge. I was a voracious reader. So in short time, I was teaching Sunday schools and different things at the church where I was baptized. And I continued my Christian walk. I was just married, and so that brought some stresses and strains of its own. So a new husband, a new father, a new Christian, still struggling with a lot of my own baggage. And I found myself trying to fit into a way of life which I believed in, but I had the wrong perception of, and I had the wrong perception even of God at that time. Was I always faithful? Well, of course, the answer to that is no. To what degree was I faithful? Well, not to any great degree. Certainly, there were many people that were held up. I was at a church that had a strong missionary focus, and so, of course, missionaries were held up as almost as the apex of all Christian effort and living. And so certainly I did not match up to any missionary. it was only through the years that, after talking to some missionaries directly and interacting with them and learning from them about their own lives, did I find out that they were subject to many of the same ups and downs that I myself was subject to. But I also discovered that the degree to which I was faithful did not impact the degree to which God loved me. It was still true that his son had died. It was still true that he was with me on a daily basis. It was still true that he was extremely patient with all my faults and foibles. And so over the course of time, I began to appreciate that God's love for me is not connected to my behavior. My enjoyment of life, however, is connected in a large part to my behavior and my attitudes and things like that. So certainly there's a sense in which we can grow and understand and kind of dive into the relationship a little bit more than we do. But we like to, sometimes I notice that religious people like to believe they're in better condition than they actually are in. And so we can say things to ourselves like, that's just the way I am, or that's just the way he is, and just kind of write it off as some sort of a quirk in personality, when actually these are character defects that need to be worked on, and that God is more than uh, able and willing to help us with. So, okay, well, it's obvious Gomer was not in good condition when Hosea married her. She was a prostitute, and he was commanded to marry her. That's an interesting deal all by itself. The fact that uh, Gomer was a prostitute and that God commanded Hosea. I mean, what did he do? Did he have a prostitute in mind? Did he go to the red light district and look them up and down and say, I want that one? I really, I can't answer those questions because I have no insight. I don't have a time machine. I don't have uh, uh, a tunnel to be able to see what Hosea and Gomer were going through. Was she pretty? Was she ugly? I got no idea. I don't know that any of that is really important. What is important, however, that is that to realize that Hosea was in a bad situation. He loved a woman that seemed to not love him. And this is the condition that we are in when we join ourselves, or when God joins us to himself in our first acceptance of this message of salvation, our belief. And he is committed, as Hosea was committed. You'll see in later sessions that Hosea was very insistent on bringing Gomer back. And this is a picture of how insistent the Lord is in bringing us back to him. So at this point, I'm going to cut this short right here, and I am going to continue. This is probably going to take some time. I'm going to try to keep this to about 20 minutes per session. And I hope that anything that I might have said just now would be helpful. I will continue doing these until I'm done with the Book of Hosea. And I hope that I can get something from doing this, as well as hoping that you get something out of this from listening to me. Thanks so much for your attention. I appreciate it. May God bless you. Stay safe and healthy. Take care.